What's going on? The Winners Win podcast. Your boy Loso 2.0, the coffee guy himself. And today we're actually talking about expositions. But before we get started talking about expositions, I want you guys to do some housekeeping things. I want you to actually, if you watch YouTube, go to that subscribe button, click the subscribe button, and subscribe to Winners Win page. And comment below, share this video, like it, all that good stuff. And if you listen to this on any podcast platform, 5-star reviews, and then leave a review below. And before we get started with the detailed thing, you guys know I like to give you guys little updates of things that happen in life in order to motivate you, or things that you can go on and do as well. Some things you're probably dealing with yourself, right? So today at as far as my job goes, right, we were talking about the idea of you can't be scared, and I talk about this all the time. You can't be scared to hold your boundaries or have your boundaries. You cannot constantly, day in and day out. Dang, every time I kept hitting the thing like this, it seemed like something was going on. But you can't constantly, day in and day out, allow people to walk over the boundaries that you set. Now, if you set certain boundaries, you can't. But the thing is, you have to start with those expectations. Now, I know I talked about this before, 30, 60, 90, right? But I like to look at it as this, right? And it's funny, I actually explained it this exact way to somebody that was trying to explain to how to set boundaries. If you try to get a lion that has been out in the jungle, they've been eating, I said eating bears, eating elephants, doing whatever they want to do, running around, just dirty, whatever they want to do. And you try to take them and make them into a house pet, or try to take them to the zoo, it's not going to happen. Now, first, you can't make a lion a house pet anyway. But if you actually had them since they were a cub and trained them all the way up, and had them all the way up until they became an adult, it'd be easier to do it because you already had them doing what they need to do. It's the same thing when you're setting your boundaries, right? Your expectations. If you let everyone else run buck wild and do whatever they want to you personally, or to hurt your business, they're going to continue to do that because you never set those boundaries. Now, but that doesn't mean you don't do it, because what happens if you never had a chance to set it? No, it means now you have to set it now, and the people that go with it stay with you, and the people that don't, they have to find somewhere else to go. That's just how it is. So that's what I'm getting to the point with that is, if the lion can't get with it, you're gonna have to let them go, or make a chinchilla coat. I don't know, but the ones that do go with it, they end up being more tamed and stuff, and then they're able to do it. Now, I'm not trying to compare people to animals, although we are animals in a sense, but I am saying that in a sense you have to set your boundaries, expectations. The earlier the better, pretty much is what I was saying. Now, from let's see, another business standpoint, I know I talked about this in my last episode, but I am just so excited to actually be able to get this speaking engagement going. It just feels like 2023 really is the year for all of us, for you, me, everybody. 2023 is going to be the one that sets us over the edge and helps us become a better version of ourselves and do what we have to do. Now, personally, myself, I actually was able to, so there's this platform that I actually was able to get on that allows you to get matched up with different people for podcasts and stuff like that. And I'm actually getting interviewed on a podcast, and I'm going to, once I get all the details for it and stuff, once the episode is out, I'm going to send it out and share with you guys about me being interviewed on someone else's podcast it was about financial freedom for physicians, personally, but it was about financial freedom for physicians, but I'm going to be on there talking about something totally, something a little bit differently, probably just about mental health and mindset and stuff. So definitely look out for that. You definitely have to get yourself out there and find different ways to collaborate with people, genuinely collaborate with people, not just about trying to get them to buy your later services and stuff. Now, I'm not saying you don't need money, but the money will always follow. And I talked about this plenty of times. The money will always follow the person who is just out here doing it for more than the money. If you're doing it for the money, it never works out. I'm just being honest with you guys. But if you're doing it for something deep, or something so much greater, something so much stronger, then it will always find a way to work out. Now, as far as the exposition step in a speech, it is very important. Now, it's not part of the persuasion. So if you're doing, it depends, if you're doing a public speech in order to do a big sales, let's say you're selling some type of program to somebody, you're gonna need to persuade them, right? But the exposition is not the part of persuasion. Now, I like to think of there's 5 steps of a sale, 6 steps of the sale. There's the first impressions, you know what I mean? There's the trying to understand, asking qualifying questions about them. Then after that, there's recommending it based off of the qualifying questions. There's the confirming that you help them with everything, and then the education, and then the thing. Now, the education is where the exposition comes in. Now, let's say you have a big speech, and then during the speech, you try to sell them something. You have to first make it simple first, because simple minds buy. A confused mind will never buy. So that's why I think of it, the exposition part is kind of like the education step. After you have pitched them or recommended something to them, or after you have pretty much spoke, I was going to say speak, but after you have spoke about your topic, you have to spend some time actually explaining it, because you want to make sure that by the time they leave, the audience leaves, they have no further questions about anything else that you have to talk about. Let me get a little bit brush session in. I told you how it is, man. I got my cut coming up Wednesday. I got to make sure that once this thing is chopped off, I still got some waves going. You know what I mean? Some waves flowing. But you want to have the exposition for that specific part, right? Like I said, you want that to be, we like to call it, see, in the business that I work in, we like to call it homework. You want to make sure that whoever the audience is, whoever maybe the customer is, the client, whatever you're working with, or whomever you're working with, leaves not having to do much. Their homework is complete. They have no homework. Because think about it, as a kid, you hated after y'all have done all this work in. The teacher has talked 1,000,000 miles per hour, and they've done all this stuff in class to try to explain some type of subject to you, whatever your worst subject is. It may be calculus, maybe it's, Black history. It could be whatever the subject is, English, literature, whatever you wanted it to be, right? They've spent all class, maybe an hour, hour and a half, trying to explain, sometimes even 2-hour classes. I think in college I had a 3-hour course pretty much. I hated that course. Oh man, I think it was the worst. But in that case, a 3-hour course, you know what I mean? They had that stuff, and then they spent all that time speaking to you about it, and then on top of that, they give you homework to follow up afterwards. That used to kill me, yo. I swear, I absolutely dreaded homework. I actually hated going to school. Which is funny, because now I feel like all I do is study all day and keep trying to spread my gospel. I feel like all I'm doing is teaching now, right? It's funny how that goes full circle, but yeah, I hated school. Although I got my straight A's, it was just, I just did what I had to do, but I hated absolutely leaving and having to have that homework. So what do you think the audience feels when they leave a speech and maybe they were interested in the product, but then they just don't get it because they don't really understand it? The exposition is just an explanation. You're just explaining more in detail the product or service or the topic that you're talking about, so that when someone leaves, they still can fully understand everything that pretty much went on. And they'll be able to remember stuff too. I think the greatest compliment to any speaker is when someone leaves or someone talks about it, and then when they're talking about it, they actually are bringing back topics or bringing back things that you actually talked about, or bringing up points that you talked about during your speech. That is the greatest compliment ever. So spend time during the exposition explaining, and not persuading them, just really just going in detail to explain everything, so they have no homework and they don't have any more questions. So that's really all I have for you guys today. I want you guys to keep killing dance. Remember, you pray for success like this. 2.0 out.